The first thing I'd like to do this morning, aside from welcoming you, I want to tell you about her. Let me tell you what she did. She let go. Without a thought or a word, she just let go. She let go of all fear. She let go of all judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions that are just swarming around her head. She let go of that committee of indecision within her. She let go of all of the right reasons. She let go wholly and completely without hesitation or worry. She just let go. She didn't ask for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She didn't search the scriptures. She just let go. She let go of all of her memories that held her back. She let go of all of the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of all of the planning and all the calculations and about how to do it just right. She didn't make a promise. She just let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write a projected date in her date timer. She didn't make a public announcement, didn't put an ad in the paper. She didn't check the weather. She didn't read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't do a five-step spiritual mind treatment. She didn't call the prayer line. She didn't utter a word. All she did was let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause. There were no congratulations. No one thanked her. No one praised her. No one noticed a thing. It was like a leaf falling from the tree. She just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It is what it is. It was what it was. It was just that she let go. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her, and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. She let go, and I believe the author's name is Sapphire Rose. I believe that's how it's correctly pronounced, and she's obviously a poet. And I thought that was a perfect poem for today. It touched me when I read that for the first time, and I'm sure many of you have heard it before as well. She Let Go by Sapphire Rose. In this talk this morning, I really came across some of the more familiar references to this. What about this one? You've heard this before. Matthew 9:17. Even if you don't even if you don't read the Bible, you've heard this. No man putteth new wine into old bottles, else the new wine will burst the bottles and be spilled, and the bottles shall perish. But the new wine must be put into new bottles, and both are preserved. We've heard this story before. We keep talking about the new bottle, that process of becoming something new. But today we're going to talk about the wine. We're going to talk about that new wine, that new spirit, that spirit of discipline in our spiritual practice. In this conversation, from crackly to supple, and really overall, just the theme for this month, it was shared with us the process of a snake shedding its skin. And we've heard this story before as well. We know that snakes, they breathe through their skin and they got to get rid of the old skin because they outgrow it. It's kind of like us. We look inside of our closets and we happen to notice we still have some clothes there from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, some of us 20 years ago. Even if they did fit, they're outdated, right? They've served their purpose. Why are we holding on to them? Are we holding on to the memory of the time that when we wore them, what our life was like? Are we holding on to the feeling that we had during that time? Are we holding on to something that no longer serves us? Much like the snake, when that old skin becomes dry, it becomes restrictive. And for the snake, they can die if they don't molt, if they don't get rid of the old skin. It's unsafe if they retain that. Now, for us keeping the old clothes in our closet, it's not unsafe, but it may lead you to battle with your husband on closet space. You know? But, snakes used in this context, especially when you start talking about them spiritually, they get a bad rap, right? Because a lot of us are scared of snakes because they bite people and, you know, that looks unpleasant. And of course, there's some biblical stories around snakes, and that may still fill our heads. And these snakes, they get a bad rap because in Genesis, they were pictured talking Eve into doing something wrong. A snake was the culprit there. But that snake really represents free will. It represents a choice. A snake represents our conscious mind and our ability to discern, our ability to choose. We can choose not to change. We can choose not to grow. We can choose not to release the old. We can choose, or we can choose life. We can choose growth, and we can also choose our full self-expression. Now, growth, much like that snake releasing their old skin, it just requires us to release something that we've been holding on to. Sometimes we confuse being the same or sameness with faithfulness. It's not, it's stagnation. We're confusing two different subjects. You see, spirit is always moving us forward and never backward. The first thing that we want to do in this process of revealing our new selves is to identify these crackly areas of our consciousness, these areas that are starting to fracture under the weight of what you actually experience in life, which comes from our new experiences, the people that we've been around, the lessons that we've been learning, and the practices we've been taking into our lives. We're starting to realize some of the things that we've been holding on to are things that we must let go in order to actually grow, in order to get to that next level that we see ourselves being at, that vision that God has for us. These crackly beliefs, these are your rigid beliefs about yourself. Some of them are so ingrained in who you are, you don't know where they came from. It could have come from a grandparent talking to you when you were young. It can be a best friend that you had when you were 25, sharing some thoughts and you held on to some of them. You may not even know where they came from, but over time they've solidified and they've hardened into beliefs. These are sometimes old emotional defenses from relationships that we have had, from jobs that we've had. And we learn to navigate the world in such a way where we have a wall up around us, we have an armor around us to protect us from the incidences that we've experienced before in the past. You're not going to let that happen again. Fool me once, fool me twice. No. Some of these crackly places were formed in pain. The pain of not having, the pain of loss, the pain of bad relationships, bad bosses, quote unquote bad bosses, quote unquote bad employees, right? These frictional relationships that we've had in our lives, they come from pain, from fear, the holding on of fear for so long. Maybe you grew up in certain circumstances where physical fear was a real thing. Sometimes we talk to people and we don't really know the world they've come from. We're around refugees all the time, particularly in Northern Virginia. You're from people from war-torn areas who are still walking around. They look normal, but they're carrying scars, heavy scars. They've seen some things in their lives. People who have operated on survival instinct for so long that it's so hard to get out of that survival instinct. Always ready to defend and protect and to fight back because everything is a fight. That's survival instinct. And those things that once protected us, they're beginning to imprison us. So much like that snake, if we were unable to shed the old, we would die in the old. That dryness or hardening of our beliefs, that's not what our sin is, quote unquote sin. Those hardened beliefs, that's a signal. When you feel that pain of wanting to grow and moving toward growth, and there's a pain, a discomfort there, particularly when you start making those steps toward your vision, doing the things which you are called to do, that pain that you feel in that process, the challenges that are in front of you, that is a signal that you are growing. Neville Goddard said, man's assumptions harden into facts. Our assumptions about ourselves are resulted in what we see when we look in the mirror today. The behaviors that we've accepted, the behaviors about ourselves that we've accepted. This is just who I am. That's what we say. That's because we become comfortable in who we are, even when we recognize that there is room to grow, an opportunity to change, an opportunity to be better. But it's a lot easier just saying it is what it is. This is who I am. It becomes uncomfortable, particularly when other people call out areas that you even know you need to change and they call it out. It probably stings a little bit more when someone validates what you've been thinking about. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. This is a blessing for you. This is an opportunity and a call for you to move toward a greater vision for who you see yourself as. You see, we do not experience life as it is, but instead we experience life as we assume it to be. Who do we assume ourselves to be in this world? And we all literally live in our own worlds. I don't know what Jackie's thinking. I have no idea what Ramona actually thinks. Everyone hears what comes out of someone else's mouth, but there is no way that we actually know what our children, our spouses, our grandchildren, our parents are thinking, because every human being lives in their own world. And we have formed our own worlds. We have formed our own heavens, and we have formed our own hells. We control this world that we live in, our own worlds. You see, we have heard this before: as a man thinketh, so is he in his heart, in Proverbs. And so through that thinking, we have created our own Genesis. We've brought our own worlds into existence. We've recreated our man or female forms based on our thought, on how we show up in the world. And this shedding process of becoming something new is not an optional process. It is something that we must do. You see, this growth process, it feels like pressure. It is uncomfortable, like when the snake sheds its skin, it does it through friction. It wants to rub against a rock. It wants to find a stone, and it's a painful process to go through and to get rid of the old. And the same exists for us. But this pressure is not evidence of punishment. That's not what that is. It is uncomfortable. And sometimes for some of us, it can be painful letting go of the old, but this pressure is evidence of your outgrowing. This means that you're doing something right. I've heard Marines say that pain is just weakness leaving the body. I heard they say that during their training. Well, that pressure or that discomfort that we feel is our old self, that old skin shedding. That is our old excuses. Those are the old stories that we have held on to. It is that old self that feels so comfortable. Anybody remember that thing they used to sell some years back called the Snuggie? Anybody remember that? It was like this blanket slash pajamas that you walked around and wore, and it looked so comfortable. I've never owned one, but man, that thing looked comfortable, didn't it? And if you had one, or if you've seen one on TV and you thought about how comfortable it is, you probably thought to yourself, you know what? If I had the fireplace on and the TV, I probably wouldn't move all day, because that's what comfort does to us. And sure, it's great to relax and to give ourselves time to refresh. That is necessary. That is a necessary part of the cycle. But when we stay in that process of comfort, when we stay in life snuggie for 2 years and for 5 years and for 10 years, you begin to feel uncomfortable because you know it is time to grow out of that oldness. You know it's time to throw that damn snuggie away, right? You see, God does not remove that old skin for us. That's not going to happen. God reveals when it no longer fits. You start feeling, okay, this is uncomfortable. This is not what I should be wearing anymore. I can't wear this anymore. I got to let this go. This is no longer for me. There are clothes that I used to wear that I would still love to wear, but they don't they, they're not right for me anymore. Right? They're not right for me anymore. I got to let them go. And so now I need to step into a new way of existing, a new way of expressing myself that is right for me based on the level of growth that I am at right now. And that spiritual growth that your level of spiritual growth that you are right now is calling you to appear as a certain person. This is the same also in your business. This is the same in your profession. You are being pulled to do something different than what you have done before. It is a yearning, a natural yearning to be uncomfortable so that you can move yourself to that next level, so that you can experience a new world that you are creating, your kingdom, God's kingdom on earth, your vision as it has been given to you so that you can manifest it in the life around you. This is not just about getting things, this is about being. The material aspects that flow out of us accepting our being, that's the icing on the cake. But the true prize is when we allow ourselves to be us, when we allow ourselves to allow that God expression to come from us, to give to the world whatever is in us that we are here to share. When we are at that point, and we are giving and sharing truly and fully of ourselves, we feel a sense of satisfaction. We feel that growth is coming into play. It's coming into place. You are seeing and doing the thing you know yourself to be. You are seeing the truth of who you are. You see, you don't necessarily need to lift a finger. I mean, there's some work to be done on the physical plane. Yes, we need to pray. We need to meditate. We need to get out there and work in our professions or whatever it may be doing that we are drawn or called to do. But really, it's not a finger that we have to lift. This is all done through assumption, assuming we are the person, the thing that we say that we are. Stepping fully into that life, stepping fully into that world. I'm going to share an example with you of a young woman who went to college to become an engineer at a time when there weren't many women in engineering. And not only did a woman in that position at that time have to experience those around her doubting her ability to be successful in that field, she also had to contend with the model of who the world said that she should be, that she had in her mind, that was indoctrinated into her. She had to overcome that. And she had to overcome the thoughts of those around her in a predominantly male field to be successful. And yes, Reverend Jackie, I'm talking about you. She had to overcome that. She had to see herself, assume herself to be the thing that she knew herself to be, an engineer, at a time when putting the two things together, people would assume was a joke born out of misogyny, right? But she saw herself, not only I did the classes and I got the degree, but leaving school, with all of those things in her head about what the world was was setting up as roadblocks for her, she knew herself to be an engineer. I am an engineer, and she approached the world in that way. And there are maybe products, there are things we've seen on TV, probably parts of space shuttles that we've seen go up that came from the work that she did, and we don't even realize that there are women out there, hundreds and thousands, who may have been inspired by her, and she doesn't even notice. She decided to express what God had for her in the world, in her career, and she had a benefit that not only benefit for some company, but a benefit for other human beings who wanted to do the same thing, who wanted to express themselves in that same or similar way. She provided this example, and all she had to do was to be herself. She just had to let go. You see, transformation, it's not necessarily the effort. Transformation is about consent, consenting for God's plan, that vision that you were given in the silence, to allow it to express itself in the world, whatever that thing may be. It is transformation is accepting this is mine to do. I'm going to do that thing, and I do not know exactly how I'm going to get to the end, but I'm going to do that thing. I don't know exactly what the next steps are, but I'm going to do that thing. I don't know how to get to my destination, but I know where I'm going. But if I can see a couple feet in front of me, I'm going to get there. I'm going to do that thing. You see, underneath that old skin, which is thick, that old skin that was built on survival, there is something below that. There is a new skin that is supple. And that new skin, much like the snake, you can breathe through it. You can feel a level of freedom there because that new skin is built for this new expression that you want to do, that you want to be, how you want to represent yourself in the world now. You see, through suppleness of your spirit, it gives you sensitivity to spirit. It gives you flexibility in your thought. You are open to new possibilities. There are doors you could not see before, but now you can see them because you removed that callus from your heart. You removed that wall that was in front of you. You have taken down that armor, what you put there to protect you, what you no longer need. You got rid of those old clothes out of your closet. There's a greater responsiveness to life now, and that suppleness allows us to receive and move on the vision for our lives, our highest and best good that the Creator has shared with us individually. You see, when we no longer know what we are becoming, meaning when we don't have vision, we begin to misuse who we are. What am I talking about? When you find yourself filling your life, filling your thoughts with placeholders, when you find yourself fantasizing a lot about how it's going to be in the future, when you find yourself fantasizing a lot about how things could have been if you had changed it in the past, reconstructing whole scenarios in your brain, in your mind, replaying them, this would have made things better. Now, hey, there's some scientific use to this. But when taken overboard, it begins to cloud our thoughts, and we're putting our thoughts far into the future, far into the past. But we need to be here, present today. We need to be aware of the mission or the vision that we have with us today. There are other things that can fill those holes as well that allow us to misuse ourselves, which are substances. It can be risky behavior, and sometimes it could just be plain giving up when things get too hard. You see, when we become supple, we actually restore ourselves to purposeful living. That vision allows us to move boldly forward in life, not knowing exactly how things will turn out. In Ezekiel, it says, and I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take the stony heart out of their flesh, and I will give them a heart of flesh. This is what we're talking about here, getting rid of that stony heart, getting rid of that heart. And you see, the heart is where the idea is consented to, and then it becomes your identity. So, what is it in your heart? Who are you? Who are you? Who do you see yourself as your best and highest good? How are you serving the world? How are you doing these things? Only you can answer that question based on your vision. And I want you to allow this new heart to come into play, this new heart to begin beating by replacing it with that fleshly heart, that soft heart, that supple heart where you accept the identity of who you actually are. Because beneath that old skin is not your hidden failures, but in fact, it's your dormant power. Beneath is that old identity, and that is completeness, not brokenness. Beneath the old skin is your potential, which overcomes all of your so-called impossibilities. And through that fear that keeps us armored, I want us to remember that it is love that keeps us open. The answer for creating that suppleness lies in that stillness. It lies when we go into the silence, when we meditate, when we see our vision and we imagine the end result, when we see it as being real and we step into the feeling of that and we see ourselves doing, being, having. We are that thing. We have become that engineer. We've stepped fully into that role. There is no imposter syndrome because deep within us we feel that. Neville Goddard said, the secret of imagining is the greatest of all problems to the solution which everyone should aspire. For supreme wisdom, supreme power, and the delight lie in the solution of this great mystery. So I'm going to close with this, with a call to action for all of us. And that is to go through a visioning process for your life, because the vision is that starting point to understand truly who and what you want to show up in this world as. What old skin you need to get rid of. What old beliefs have become brittle in your life. What is that old skin you need to remove? What assumptions no longer fit who you are becoming? On Friday mornings, we have a visioning session. And feel free to join that. It's at 9 a.m. And after the session today, we can give you some more information about that so that you can begin to develop your own vision to call forth and understand what you would like to share with the world. And then think about through that, how do we cultivate that suppleness through this next week? It is through prayer, especially when we are in gratitude for what we already have. It's through imagining by seeing the end result and knowing that is your destination. It is through community, being around brothers and sisters like this, those who are working toward the same end result, walking in the same spirit, those who are equally yoked with yourself. And most importantly, this process is also about having compassion toward yourself. Not beating ourselves up all the time when we quote unquote make a mistake, when we fall down, when we are less than our perfect selves, when we think or say something that is probably not in line with our highest and best values, but giving ourselves space to forgive ourselves and to then grow and then move on. I will close with this practice of consent. As we close, I want to be very clear about something. Letting go is not something that we do, but instead it is something that happens when we stop interfering with the natural processes of spirit operating through us. In that poem, She Let Go, it reminds us that transformation does not always come through our effort or our planning or even a spiritual technique, but sometimes it comes through when we simply stop holding on to the things which we can let go. You remember, she didn't improve herself. She didn't fix anything. She didn't make a declaration. She just let go. And this is what shedding looks like. It's not striving, it's not force, but it is release. And so rather than ending with more words, I'm going to end with providing us with some space. I invite you to sit comfortably. And if it feels right, go ahead and close your eyes. You don't need to do anything special with your breath. Just let it breathe itself. And now, without searching, without effort, I want you to notice, what have you been carrying that no longer needs to be carried? There's no deep analysis here. There's no judgment. And if nothing comes to you at this moment, that's perfectly fine. If something does come up, don't engage it. Simply notice what you're holding on to. And now, without deciding, without any effort, allow the possibility that you can just stop holding it. Not later, not after you understand it, just now. No words are required, no emotion, just permission. There is one life, there is one God. That life is God. That life is perfect, whole, loving, intelligent, creative, and forever unfolding. This life knows only growth, renewal, and divine expression. Nothing is stuck, nothing is stagnant, nothing is obsolete in the mind of God. I know that this one life expresses itself as me. I am not separate from this life, nor can I be diminished from it. The same power that renews the earth, that sheds the old and brings forth the new, is active within my consciousness right now. I recognize that every season of my life has served a purpose. It has served its purpose. I honor what once protected me, taught me, and carried me this far. And now I release it with gratitude. I let go of every hardened belief, every outdated assumption, every brittle way of seeing myself or the world. And I affirm that I am willing to be made new. My mind is renewed. My heart is softened. My spirit is supple, flexible, and responsive to divine guidance. I assume the feeling of wholeness now. I dwell in the consciousness of becoming. I know that beneath every layer lies greater truth, a greater freedom, and a greater expression of God as me. And I trust the process of spiritual evolution. I welcome the friction that reveals growth and the stillness that reveals wisdom. I give thanks for the new skin of awareness forming even now. I am alive, I am awake, and aligned with life's forward movement. I move gently, confidently, and faithfully into what is next. And I release this word into the law, knowing it is done, knowing it is complete, and it is established. And so it is.